We're live in three, two. Good morning, Guardians. I'm Arch Burgundy, and today's top story, me and Chandler talk about Destiny, aka Cha Cha.
What up? What up?
We're going to be talking about the state of the game as it is now, post Act 2. So we're about a week in. There are a lot of negative thoughts that are revolving around. Uh, we want to be a little bit more realistic as to what we want to expect from the game coming forward, what's currently in the game, what we like about the game, what we don't like about the game. So I'm going to start it off. First question for Chandler. Now that
And just
Act
just
2,
heads up for everybody. I'm a newer casual player. Archer obviously plays a little bit more and at a higher volume. So you're gonna get two different perspectives from this of someone who's just picking it up and learning, or someone who doesn't really have all the time. As and then Archer will get you, more what you're seeing at the streamer and YouTuber level.
yeah, I'm the drained player. Chandler's the one trying to drain me even further at this point.
Got a couple drops left in there. I know you do.
I'm working on it. All right. All right. So now that Act 2 is out, do we think, from your perspective first, is the 6 week pace of content coming out going to be enough for you to stay engaged with said content?
I'm gonna say yes for a casual. Um, this is good for someone who can't just crank out 10 to 20 battlegrounds per week, and with the resets and the campaign missions, I can't remember off the top of my head per week like how many steps they let you do. I think it's like 5 or 8 per week. That's honestly perfect for someone who's just logging in once a day, who can get an hour, 2 hours in. I'm a big fan of that pace. It really works for me. Um, but if I do get a lot of free time certain weeks and I can play, a couple hours a day or, crank out a 4 to 6 hour session and I'm just doing that, yeah, I'm done like very quickly. So for me, it just really depends on it. But ultimately, I think it's been pretty good. I can say the content itself, what isn't spectacular, nothing memorable. Like if I'm beaten something the first week or that first eight couple checkpoints, by the time the next one comes up I don't even remember what I did the week before. Like that's how little it's been enriching to me.
So they talked about, right, dropping the entire story all at once for an act, right? So basically, day one, act one comes out next episode. You can play the whole story. Would you play that whole story, or would you like chip away at it? Like, what are your thoughts from this pace to that pace?
I'm thinking I'd chip away. I mean, I think that's a great idea because then you just give the option to everybody, right? If you're a high volume player, you can just do it all in one day, whatever. If you're like me, you don't have as much time, uh, per day or per week or other commitments, whatever it is. You can have a day where you have 4 hours of gaming and you can do 4 hours of the campaign, or you have a day where you only have an hour or so and you can just do one mission. I think it's a really good spread out approach. I personally, I'm a fan of like Netflix or Amazon shows, whatever streaming services. When they give you everything at once, it's perfect. But some nights I can watch three episodes of the series. Some nights I could just watch half of one. Right. So for me, I think it's a really good thing for everybody, and I'm a big fan that they're doing it. Awesome that they live and listen to fan feedback. But I think for someone yourself, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I feel like I've always wanted it that way. I've always just wanted to like not be forced to come back every Tuesday. But I also kind of enjoy coming back, right? Like maybe I do the season activity, maybe knock out one or two things, and then I'm like, all right, Tuesday I'm coming back. But at the same time, like if I have something I want to do for a week or two, like if I want to go on a vacation, then I have to play catch up, and I don't like that. So yeah, I mean, I grinded like literally like 40 battlegrounds as soon as they came out just to get everything, get the achievements, get the like NES 04 quest done, which like you needed like 9. It was ridiculous. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good option to grind it, but for the people, I feel like the people who are even one step above me, they're gonna grind it all out and then be like, there's nothing to do in the game. But I mean, we'll get to that kind of later. Like, I always think there's something to do. Like, I don't always just log in, do the story, and then stop playing. And the story only takes like, depending on what week it is, maybe like 20, 30 minutes tops. And for some people, they don't even do that. They're like, oh, I can't be bothered with the story. So it's I'm excited to get it all done because I want to like get it at once. But like you said with Amazon shows, like I like being able. I mean, I know like Fridays is The Boys, Sunday is Game of Thrones, and like Tuesdays sometimes Wednesdays there's like the Star Wars show, right? Um, it'll be interesting. I think if anything, right, if we move into like what they did with the episode that's different than seasons is the vendor. The season vendor has so many upgrades, and the best one I've seen so far, like we've only gotten one out of the next like 4 or 6, I forget what it is, but it was your class item counted as all 3 of the XP bonuses and then it got doubled. So literally just slapping on the class item gets you 60%. And for me, I was like, that's awesome because if I just want to like do battlegrounds to grind it out and get rewards, you're getting so much XP that you're just getting free cores, free prisms, free exotic. Like it's free. It makes you like want to do the season thing more than like rank up a different vendor, right? Than like doing strikes because you're getting the same rewards but way faster.
And I think the battlegrounds and then the traditional activity, the enigma, you have a lot of options this season. If this is going to be where what the model looks like going forward, I'm in because it's not what typically the last seasons would be. What were they, 3 to 4 months long, and it was one new activity, and then we still had same strikes, same PvP playlists, the same at the time, 2 gambit maps. I mean, or maybe it was even one. I can't remember off the top of my head too well. But like, this has given us a breath of fresh air, and they've already shown us for Act 3 of this episode 1 right now. Well, our battleground even goes deeper into the core, and it's a continuous activity. Like, I think that's really good. We were talking about like the TV shows being in a comparison. Like some give you it all at once, some give you a spread out approach. You touched on that. What do you have that discipline to not crank through all of it? Are you mad at yourself if you do that because you can't have that self control, or do you prefer to just have the option? Where's your head at in that?
If the show is if they drop a show like a whole every episode and I watch like the first 2 and I'm hooked, I'm staying up till like 2 o'clock and I'm finishing it. I wouldn't even say it's like a control thing. It's like if the show's actually good, I want to crank through it. And I kind of think that way with the season stuff, right? Like if I start it and I'm engaged and I'm getting like rewards or I'm getting unlocks and like maybe weapons, right? We saw the season of the dawn weapons kind of be like gated towards the story. Like we still don't have the shotgun, and I'm assuming that's gated with like week 2. So it'd be like if in episode 2, if there's a weapon that's gated in the middle of the story, right, you could just get there if that's what you want and then grind that gun out. And then if you're not really feeling the story, you can be like, I'm all right. I did like 3 missions. I'll wait. And then act 2 comes out and you're like, oh, I want to catch up real quick. But so you can like, it's nice because you can pace it. But I know everyone hates time gating things, but it also is like, for me, it seems like it's there to keep you to come back, but like you don't have to spend, it's not like you have to spend your whole week grinding story stuff or anything like that. Like you could just play the game or choose not to. And then when Tuesday would come, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this. But I never felt burdened. And I still think the new way will be better because you could like space it out. You could play like every Tuesday at reset, be like, I'm gonna do one, for whatever reason, if you're just not that into it. So I do like this way better. I will probably I will 100% do it like the first hour. I'll do the whole story. There's
Well,
no
I mean,
there's no doubt.
So like I totally agree with you. I think right now with how I think, to be frank, like kind of how dull this season or this episode story's been so far, I'm okay waiting. It's like I'm not on the edge of my seat being like, oh my god, like I want to get to next week's story, or I want to just keep doing this. Like you're saying, if the show's really good, you'll stay up, but if the show's not so good, you probably just kind of leisurely do it. That's how I feel about this. So if the next one's more into it, I'm all for it. But yeah, as it stands right now, to me releasing it all, I'm like, thanks. Uh, hopefully it's better. But right now, I would probably personally in that model just space it out for myself. I would just kind of walk it out because right now there's nothing that's hooking me so much that I'm like, I got to see what happens next.
Yeah, and I mean the one problem with the seasons that's always happened with the seasonal activity is like once I get all the red borders, which is like the first week, maybe the second week, just grinding it and getting them at the end. Like once I'm done that, for me, I'm like, do I really need to step foot in here? Like at that point, I'm chasing the triumphs for the title, whatever I can do. If I can't do like more, then I'll just stop. So what's different with this season is I've already gotten all the weapons. Once Act 2 hit, I grinded that until I got the next two weapons crafted, and I'm
They
still
even
playing
tried
it.
to prevent you from doing that, like by just they were like, we're locking these. You guys have no chance. And immediately day one, everybody's like, yeah, it turns out you can just get them by random drops. So you know what I did? Random activity constantly.
But I mean, they have the Breach executable. I'm sorry, they have the Season of the Dawn weapons, and the one thing I love about it is I love the weapons. Like I want a better sidearm, but they made it so that you only get double perks from the Enigma protocol the first time you do it that week, and it's not even like first time each character. It's the first time. I think that that should just be guaranteed if you get to the second boss, because I know you get one at the first boss. But if you want to like really push it, you could say like, oh, the second one gives you double drops no matter what, because then I would be running that over and over again until I got the sidearm, and then that way when this act comes out, you get the perfect paradox. Now I'm grinding for a perfect paradox for two perks that I want in each column. So they kind of like screwed themselves on that one because I basically just do one Enigma protocol a week because you could just pull weapons from the vendor anyway. So why would I like grind it for those? But I mean,
Fair.
the battlegrounds are good. They're like actually enjoyable. I
It's a good grind. I'm a huge fan. I myself had time this week to be able to get at least one of the guns red bordered by doing the activity so much, and it felt good. Really good flow, good enemy types. It had some randomization to it, and some honestly some difficulty if you did the expert.
Yeah, the expert one I wasn't
I felt
expecting to
fighter
get.
harder than the Nightfall personally.
Yeah, I got melted by like two shanks and a heartbeat, and even in GMs that doesn't happen anymore. So it's
No,
definitely. And I also like how you basically take a little break to go pick up the materials, which like some people I know probably don't care about, but for completing like all the triumphs and getting like the ghost shell, or I think it's like a ship or sparrow, right? Like I don't feel like I have to go out of my way to get it. I am just getting them because there was an activity. What was it? It was the pirate season. You had to like kill these savage treasurers or something, and they were just like so rare. You were just grinding and like not getting them. Versus this one, everything flows naturally. I'm not getting it too fast, but I'm not getting it at all.
I agree. That's how I felt about these red borders. It was like I would do probably, let's just say I do 3 battlegrounds. I would at least get probably 1 red border out of the 5 for what I'm looking for, and then I get the gun in a roll that's something I can use a, harmonic, weaponizer or what it's called on it, so that was good, like, it felt like I was working towards something where the exotic class item we could talk about later just feels like too much even though it's a guarantee.
Yeah, and I mean the season artifact too, getting like the 5 extra slots, that was massive. Like the
Wish I
sniper
got extra points.
extra points in.
like, because it wasn't, I had to then refund to get my bottom row more. Like I couldn't continue on what I had. I had to spread it out.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be so broken at that point. It was
But
hard
I
to
didn't love
adjust.
everything I had either. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is like it would have been nice, but like you're right. It just puts you in God mode. But overall, I'd never had anything that I loved on every single section.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the list pulled up right now, but just overall, like, consistent gameplay, you've got the elemental charge, and then you've got the like using a kinetic or a weapon that matches your subclass gives you the elemental drops, the fire sprites, the void breaches, and then that's where the elemental charge comes in. Then there's one where it's like when you break enemy shields, you get like handling, reload, all that. And then that whole I mean, the bottom row just go right into like all solar. If you really wanted to do prismatic, it's still like they still work out well. And then if you want to use prismatic more but don't care about the sniper stuff, you can put those points into the prismatic stuff instead of the two sniper perks. Well, I guess three actually because of the barrier sniper, but it really I'm a little more worried for Act 3 because that'll be a lot of perks to choose from, but it really is like that's like build crafting, right? It's like a skill tree. It's like a seasonal skill tree. You can't like just invest all your points. But it changes the whole gameplay up. Like my whole now I'm just locked into Solar Warlock for like the rest of the season. Before I was just all over Hunter. So it's nice.
No, that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I mean, I know we're hearing content creators and Destiny community talk about like these episodes being a little underwhelming. Even you just heard me saying story is just okay. This is to me the first time the content though, of like giving us guns, giving us like we're getting new seasonal perks, even sandbox changes mid season, mid episode. That's nice. Like we weren't getting that kind of stuff before. Every season was like, here's some new world drop stuff, which is great. But with these acts, instead of us waiting, the 4 months to get the 5 guns, they're giving us all new guns with the episodes, and they're giving us, they sprinkled in two here. We're probably gonna have an exotic weapon either this episode or next as the stories progresses. I know they showed a couple of rumored things within the leaks. Like I think they're kind of sprinkling things in a healthy way where, to me, casually loving it. Like it's something I'm always logging in. Feel like I have purpose. I have something I'm doing.
Yeah, they talked about the exotic mission being the biggest exotic mission they've ever done. I'm just curious as to what secrets are going to be in it and like what other guns or like drops do we get? Is there going to be like an armor set tied with it? Because when you have an exotic weapon, right? If we use like Whisper as an example, you're speeding through the first half, right? You did the oracles to get the ship. I think there was one more like bonus thing to get the catalysts. But outside of that, you were just like getting through it and then getting the whisper, and that was your reward. With this, if it's a really, really long mission, or it's a, I don't know if they say big like long or big like scale, it doesn't really like make it better when you're only getting like one thing at the end. It's like, did you play Vexcalibur?
Yeah,
Yeah, that felt like I was doing so much work and so much stuff to get a glaive that I never use. It was fun.
100% agree.
Yeah, like it was fun, but like once I did it, 3 or 4 times, like I've never run it again because it's like why would I spend 30 minutes doing this mission just for fun when, I could be doing battlegrounds or literally anything else in the game. So, I'm hoping the scale has meaning other than just like, hey, we made it really big, but here's just one reward and you're like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to do it 3 times and never do it again.
Yeah, I think you had to do that mission to be kind of the crawling aspect of all these exotic missions so they can kind of run. Like that mission kind of had to suck and they had to learn from it and to make Whisper better and to make even the
The pulse rifle. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Outbreak.
yeah, it's just yeah, Outbreak Prime mission. That was so fun. Like so good and refreshing, and it was like there we go. Like okay. where that, like you just said, it didn't feel like, I will say the schematics of things are a little grindy, like where as a casual player, you're not going to learn those things. You're going to have to go look at a guide, watch a video, go frame by frame to like make sure you're doing it right for that one. But like that's just a challenging thing that should be in the game. Honestly, you don't want it just to be a walk and a breeze.
Have you been using the Zur rework at all? Like, have you been like going to him actively each week?
I have, the thing, like what I do with him, I just go and buy cores or prisms if he has those, or even glimmer with them. I feel the need to spend the strange coin so I can have that bonus where I get an increased volume of them. But personally, like I don't feel like there's really any good spend with them besides that stuff, like just for currencies. But that's just me as a casual and didn't like look too much into it. Where's your head at with it?
I personally have been trying to collect armor sets that I don't have, things that I think you could only get through dares or like on the off chance he had it. Like this week he had the Jensum Knight set, and that's something that was like the last one I was missing for like two of my characters. So I was basically spamming the armor engram trying to fill the collection out. And then this was the final week where he sold everything I needed for Warlock. So I'm done. So it was nice because like if you do want to get into Destiny and you want to collect things, but you're like, I didn't play, the past 10 seasons, right? This is like a good, it's really easy to get coins from him, right? Just grinding ritual activities or whatever, and then spamming them, like chances to get old guns if you're like really nostalgic about some really old gun that's not good anyway, but that's what people like to do. So I enjoy it. Like you said, cores, the glimmer, that's always just like a really nice bonus to get. Um, if he's got like any crazy armor sets, that's always good. And really, now he sells more than ever, right? He's got like two exotic catalysts. He's got, I think, like four armor sets, like four weapons. Like if you're a new player and you don't have those weapons, like that should be the first thing you're buying. You should be getting right all the weapons, all the catalysts. It's a really easy catch up mechanic if you're a new player.
When Andy gives out ciphers, he's probably the most important vendor, like for a new player, specifically. He's going to be the only pathway for you to really be able to even use Raoul's exotic specific Ingram decrypting. But most of all, that's like what you're just saying. Like you're going to be able to get anything from him just from strange coins. He'll give you the quest to get ciphers. You can use the ciphers to then get more guns off Zur hours. He probably is the most important vendor for new light players.
Yeah, and he really is easy to grind. Like to get to that max level to basically use a cipher to get something you don't have, or if you're a veteran player, right? Like you just get to 5 and then you pick up his bounty and then you use one to artifice armor one of your exotics and then you get it like if you want to stay at 5. But like the artifice armor that they added, it's right, it's either him or Raul you're getting it from. So he's like the main dude. You're just grinding and it's really easy. It's nice. It's definitely a really good rework. I just would like to see them maybe put a little more into the loot pool. Maybe like the past, like not the past 4 seasons, but like before that, things that like you can't get in the game right now.
Yeah, I mean that just shows that it just hits everybody. Like I said, new player catching up, old player hitting your collections, old player again, like just ciphers. Like just everybody can benefit from it. I mean, everybody needed ciphers when Final Shape came out because that was the only way you can, after you pick one of the two exotic class items, the only way you're gonna get your next one once you beat the campaign was through Raoul, and the only way you can buy him from Raoul is with a cipher, and the only way to get a cipher is through Zur. So like they make you reliant on it, and I think it's okay. I really don't feel like it's too much of a grind. They just say like, hey, play the game, and you're gonna get rewarded.
Yeah. All right, let's move into the final shape. Was
Final shape.
was the campaign everything we hoped it would be, thought it would be? You know, did you get all the answers? Because I didn't. Like everyone keeps saying best story they've ever done. I think that that's true, but I also think
Pretty low bar.
yeah, yeah, it's not like I can't even. I guess Witch Queen would be top, and even still, honestly, a lot of people I know still think Witch Queen is a way better campaign. It was like way more compelling. You got answers, you got a huge mystery with this new character. Final Shape was like get the gang back together, go in, defeat him. Zavala makes bad choices, which was a little out of character, but I also think it was probably hard to build his story into being that character the past year because obviously he died. So if they were, they had lines they wanted to get through the seasons, like he didn't talk for like 3 seasons at all. So they needed time to get the new guy in for him to do his voice lines, and by that point they're probably just on the final shape. So it did feel a little out of character, but I don't think it like took away from the whole like perspective of the campaign.
I think they set good expectations and good hype, and I think it lived up to all of it. Like they were saying, this is going to be the end of the Light and Dark saga. That's correct. That was the end of it. It's going to be really really good content with the things they dropped. The sub like obviously, I don't think anybody saw Prismatic coming until they showed it in the showcase where we were like, wow, okay, like that was such a cool thing they added. I mean, Prismatic's a whole different conversation we get into later, but like overall, it was a great DLC. Storytelling wasn't the best. Um, like you said, they put a really out of character Zavala, which is cool and different to see. But like, it seems like it was a cameo thing, a one-time thing. Like, we're never going to see Zavala so vulnerable and so just reckless, really. Like with just his choices and everything. They gave us Cade back, and it was like awesome. But they took him away. I mean, it almost appears that they just paid the voice actor Nathan Fillion just to do this quick little couple line stint in a session, and they planned on just writing him out knowing that they couldn't afford to keep him on long term. So I think they told a good story overall when it comes to just like the nostalgia as a player and like getting into the knit and grit of it. But at the same time, they told us nothing, right? Like nothing really happened. And to me, the Witness never does it for me. The Witness is not. I agree. I think Witch Queen. I think Sabbathune was so much cooler of a story. We're talking about we learned about wishes and just their whole family tree and the linearity between it and like the complexity of that story where they were like she died, she came back as a ghost, she needs to restore her memories. Like way more of a better thing. Witness to me, too too deity, too far away. Even I felt like Oryx was more. We were closer to Oryx than we were to him, um, and it kind of showed. So like I think content wise, great. Storytelling wise, meh, not terrible, but like I don't think they told us enough.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were complaining about Cade coming back before the DLC drop because they're like, how does this make any sense? Is he staying around? How is this even possible? So him coming and going it was done very well, and I think that that kind of like answered everybody's like thought about it, like, oh, is he going to stay? Like, how is that possible? So getting rid of him actually made the most sense. With the Witness, I was gonna say someone was telling me the same thing, right? Like the fight didn't feel that frightening, but I like his character. I do like the idea of the character. Like he is very menacing, but then when you're actually like fighting him at the end of the raid, right, it doesn't feel as menacing. But it is really like the same fight as Oryx, like because you brought it up. You literally do a mechanic, you get to a point, and then you shoot him in the chest. Like Oryx, people like Oryx a lot because the presentation is very well put. And they actually talked about this a long time ago where they said that they used Oryx way too early. Like as a raid boss, as like a final boss, he was such a menacing character, and the effects that Oryx had on the universe, like lore wise, have still been like the waves of it are still here today. Like everything he did, I don't have all the details, but like they used him too early. They should have like held on to him. But really, at the end of the day, the boss fight is identical. Like Oryx just moves around, slams a plate, right? You do the mechanic and you shoot him in the chest. And that was like the witness. He's just like standing there. He's waving his little arms, you're shooting his buttons off, and then you go into damage and you're just shooting him in the chest. Now, the boss mechanics for the actual final fight, definitely the coolest one they've ever done. Like, it's amazing
Easily.
to see how many people suck at the witness boss fight because they have never once moved and shot a gun at the same time. Like, it showed like the level gap of players and like people who like really people who didn't like it. They're like, oh, this sucks. It's like, you mean you can't stand in a well? Yeah, that's like why they did these things. That's why they nerfed well, right? That's why it's not as like potent as it was. And it was awesome. It was a good boss fight. Definitely not the menacing character I thought he was going to be in the raid. They could have went like darker, maybe like blacked out the whole sky or something, right? Like maybe a couple more kill mechanics, just like a random hand grabbing you and somebody's got to like shoot it to get you out of it or something. Like just like one or two more things I think would have made it like S tier versus like A tier.
I mean, the raid was the best raid. I'm a World of Warcraft guy. I played all the Destiny ones. I played D1 ones, and even the nostalgia of like a Volta class kind of thing. This to me, it was such a good raid, such good mechanics. It wasn't a damage off. It wasn't who can pound the most, who can just do a meta and just cheese something. You gotta work as a team. You can't be a terribly new player that says I'm just gonna be an ad clear. This raid was so good, and you're right. The witness fight was phenomenal. Love it, every aspect of it. Honestly, yeah. Once you figure it out, it seems easier. But God, the path to learning it, and obviously the encounters before, were so sick. Like 10 out of 10, best raid I've ever done.
Yeah, one of our buddies was saying he didn't like it because it was too puzzly, but I think that they catered it to the hardcore players for sure because like if you look at all old raids and you think about which one had the most mechanics, that's usually where everybody always struggles, right? Like planets on Nezarec, there are still people you could breeze through first and second encounter without knowing a thing, and then you get to fourth, and if you don't have four people that know what to do or like make call outs, you're in there for a hot minute. And this whole raid was like constantly people that you had to know what to do, right? Like from the very beginning, you have to know how to pass the plates. Like four people have to do that. You have two people kind of floating. Second encounter, everyone needs to know how to pass plates. And then third encounter, everyone needs to know how to pass plates and read symbols and close symbols. Like, and then you go into fourth encounter. Not even going to talk about that because everybody sucks at that. And then, yeah, boss fight. It was challenge. It's still challenging, like getting new players into it, and even playing with people who have done it if they haven't played a certain role. Um, it's it's definitely it's such a staple that I'm worried, right? If they reprise like Scourge of the Past, how could you even make that so mechanic heavy where people would be like, oh, this is like worthy of being a reprise raid or something like that? Versus just like, oh, we breeze through it. Like it's the same. Scourge of the Past had like the lowest clear times. People were like 7 minute clears, right? Like I'm just worried about if they'll do another raid, when we'll get it, and if it'll be just as good or if it'll like decline basically.
Do they try to do a raid every year or even like more than that?
We were getting two a year, so you would get the new
Okay.
one and the reprised one. Theoretically, given the pace of episodes, you would think a raid reprisal would come in the second episode, but I think we would get a dungeon. I thought we were getting a dungeon this season. And I mean, honestly, maybe we will. I don't know, maybe the third act, but it's not on the rank 11 thing, which makes me think it's not going to be on there at all. So I would assume next season's a dungeon. And then that third season would be another exotic mission and then maybe a reprisal. I didn't
Yeah, I feel like they can get away with a dungeon. They got to give us something next season. I see why they probably didn't this season slash episodes because they were like, we just give you the final shape. So like we're not going to try to crunch in everything. They're going to try to spread it out. So I can see next season they doing a dungeon or raid. I'm assuming dungeon. I like you. I like you just said. I don't feel like they're going to give us a raid until like the next episode. Maybe is what they kick off. Is like the big thing is like we get a new episode and a raid comes with it. But a dungeon is what I would see at most finish out in one of these next two episodes.
If anything, too, I think, this is like coming back to being like a veteran player and also being someone who's like worked on software. I think that they should take this time to get all the old content in. Like this raid was good. People keep playing it for a long time. And basically from now, like I don't want to see another new raid until like the sixth episode. Like if Frontiers is, episode 4, that's like the start. I don't want to see a new raid till 6. I want to see Scourge come back. I want to see Leviathan come back and like maybe Wrath get reprised one day if that ever happens. But like I think they should use this time to get those things back in the game. Like I don't really like Leviathan, but I like Eater of Worlds and I like Spire of Stars. And the armor sets from all those raids are incredible. Like I don't have full sets of everything. And as someone who like wants to collect these things, that like needs to be in the like I would rather have those before a new raid any day. Like new armor set, whatever, cool. But like getting all the old weapons, now that they've unsunset everything, like reprise everything, bring it back, like let us get it, and don't do it slow, right? We got the Hush bow this season. Like there's like 5 Gambit guns that are like signature staples, and they brought one back. Are they going to bring one back in the next episode? And then it's like, how long is it going to take before we get, you know, 21% delirium back? Uh, it's like too slow.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I I agree. I think their pace is what they're really aiming for. I think they're really trying to spread it out because they don't want to blow their whole load just in the first like 3 months. But I think they've got a lot on the plate personally. You know, still just kind of touching up on final shape stuff. Like I know we talked about campaign, raid, and everything, but I just want to say overall, like at the prismatic is awesome. Prismatic's the greatest thing. I really hate not using prismatic. Makes build crafting easier. You don't have to do like swapping between things in there. It just made the build crafting more fun. You know, when we start getting into the most light things, and now that we have multiple charges of it, and when we go prismatic, I can now do consecration X amount of times, or as a warlock, I can shoot out my needle and have a melee that's charging a lot more faster. The class abilities just like have more meaning. The perks in them are spread out really well and all meaningful. I love the final shape added exotic class items. They got to touch on it. Like the 64 chance of getting the one you want is absurd, but like in general, the idea of it, we're going the right direction. Like this is something we can build off. We can add perks or something like that down the line. Who knows? Maybe you can make it a craftable thing. But I think the quality of life changes they made in this activity are so good. Light level sizing, you go into an activity. I only played, a couple missions the first week this thing came out, and then me and you wanted to do an activity that required me to be at 2000. We're able to do that. Like there was no limit. Like you didn't have to sit there and wait. They added that knowing like okay, like not everybody's gonna be playing at the same pace. These are things like I love. I thought the Pale Heart activities was so more refreshing compared to your traditional like you get a new planet, hey, go and do the patrols, and it's the same thing, right? Go put your ghost here, go scan this area, or hey, you just general kill enemies, kill certain enemy type. The pale heart activities of just being like random public events of like bigger bosses or destroying these crystals and taking the shields to destroy them. Even when you have to put the little like suicide thralls into the little capsule, that stuff is sick. And the rewards make sense. You're getting bread borders from the Pale Heart. You could potentially get your exotic class item. You're getting materials the whole time you're doing from it. To me, just like that stuff is so mindless for anybody, and it doesn't feel like work like it traditionally did. I hated doing patrols and anything where it would be like you want to get your rank up for the Pale Heart, like or the planets you're doing if you're doing Nessus, Mars, Earth, whatever, and you had to go do patrol to progress that. It was such a dread, dude. now where this feels so much more fun. Like just what the big things you can do, over or not overflows, I'm
Overthrow,
sorry.
overthrow.
Overthrows are great. Like good, just like little three-man activity with your buds. You're guaranteed to ergo some, which I'm not a huge fan of myself, and there's probably ones that you really like, but I just don't really like swords. But like, I love it. I really think it's really good things. I thought they did incredible quality of life stuff to me, where it made the current content and the newest content feel great. Just having the new HUD, class items, you're working towards something always when you're doing anything in the pale heart or in the final shape. That to me is hard to achieve as a game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would like to touch on the exotic class item first. So, my opinion on it is that if they were to add one more source for you to get it, like rank ups, like maybe you could get one every rank up, or maybe you got some sort of currency where you could buy one, right? You have overthrows, you have dual destiny. Dual destiny is awesome. Like it is
10
really
out of 10.
that's like kind of what I was saying with the exotic mission. Like if the new exotic mission is really good, but it takes me 40 minutes to do it, it's like where does the like time limit versus the like, hey, this was
Risk
really
for like, yeah,
cool.
the reward.
Yeah, like them patching the double thing out and everybody crying about it, that was like it's literally a glitch. Who cares? But like I would argue, right, the reason I don't like the way the exotic class item is set up now is not really because of the grind it takes to try to get the ones you want. It's for me, it's because all the Titan rolls suck and the warlock like the Titan might have one or two really solid ones. The warlock would have like maybe three or four, and then the hunters is like every combination. So it's like I haven't even grinded it on my Titan because it's there's nothing that's like, ooh, like I could literally go use a regular solar Titan, void Titan, strand Titan, and I still feel just as strong as with any of the class items on Prismatic. Especially because you don't get Banner of War, which is like the biggest loss of all time. But like
They gotta
Warlock,
bring that back.
I know.
It's I feel like it's gonna be in Prismatic, I'm just hoping.
With Warlock, you're just feeding your abilities like even harder. And there's a, like, you know, Inmost Light, Star Eater Scales is like just a really good solid option, right? Inmost Light and Starfire. It's just like you don't really use like the crazy ones. You don't use like necrotic grips with the one that gives you like another melee, so you'd have like four of them. It's mostly because all that stuff's better on like just straight void or like straight strand, right? So it's not that the grind is what makes me be like this needs to be craftable. It's more of the like I don't even care about 90% of these on Titan, 80% of these on Warlock and Hunter. It's like I feel like I have to get every single combination because it's just too much. But I mean, covering
Man,
like
they gave a lot of love to the hunters this final shape. I don't know, you maybe you could fill in some color to me of why they did that, but they fucking loved the hunters this DLC and this expansion.
well, everybody knows that Bungie hates Titans, and this is like the direct sign of it. Because people forget all the sandbox changes that happened leading into this. Like they nerfed Banner of War, they nerfed Suspend. I mean, they nerfed Suspend across the board, but the Strand Titan, its whole thing was about right, like Suspend, whereas Warlock was about threadling and the hunter was like a weapons master, right? You had the grapple, you had the kunai, you had the decoys, like you were kind of like a master of the field. But every time the Titan had something, it was like I could keep everything suspended for 20 years. They're like, all right, nerf it. Then it's like I can punch everything and do like a million damage. They're like, not only did they nerf that, but they nerfed right worm gods and syntheseps directly with it. Then they bring in a new exotic, which to be fair, that one's goaded. I love that one a lot. But still, like base strand Titan is better than Prismatic. And I know there's people running like 8 minute GMs on Prismatic, but like if you're a casual player, I would still just go base strand. It's not.
I
It's
mean, just the
actually
survivability, like the GM stuff. GMs for reference are the easiest they've ever been, and
yeah.
uh, just because people know how to like find the gaps in these GMs. But you go to master raids or something with those same builds, they're not going to be there. But when you have Banner of War, you have more survivability. You start to stack up your kills. Like it's like having a Warlock's Devourer. Like it just makes sense and it gets them really going, especially if they have consecration. It just would benefit. Maybe you just nerf Banner of War a little bit, but still give it to him where it doesn't maybe help the teammates as much or something. I don't know. But you got to give these Titans something where they don't have to go into deep level content and have to get as close as possible to the enemies.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a hole with it because I know they buffed the super damage, but I don't have an answer for like how you fix it because here's the thing, right? If everyone's like, it needs everything needs to get buffed on Titan, it just doesn't feel great. So, in my mind, the way you would do that is you would give it different abilities and like a different aspect. So basically, you add on to it, which means you would add on to the warlock and you would add on to the hunter. So it would always keep falling behind. Like you would have to give the warlock and the hunter the worst two aspects you could ever think of. And then maybe it would be like close to on par, but the Titan would have to get its like best two back, which would be like Banner and I don't know, Soul Invictus, I think would be crazy. Like the sunspots coming up. Um, yeah, I don't really think I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I don't know what they're gonna do. Going with the Pale Heart, like you were talking about, like doing stuff there. I've always said that Destiny is like mindless fun. Like I could do strikes over and over again, and people are like, "That's crazy." I'm like, I'm not sitting there, you know, speed running, like running my highest things. Like I'm just in strikes, leveling up weapons, doing things. The Pale Heart feels the same way. Between the Pale Heart and the Battlegrounds, it's like they're the best mindless fun that I'm having. Like if I'm going to be playing for hours on end trying to level up weapons or just have fun, run builds, like I don't want to have to always overuse my mind basically, like right like a Legend Onslaught, I'm like really locked into like one build or you at least need one person to, have tether because it's just so easy. But everything else is like it's very mindless fun. And I say mindless, but like I enjoy doing it. And then they basically the problem with the Pale Heart is they keep doing this where they set a bar and maybe we'll bring in right the like adept weapon rework and double perks. Now that all weapons are enhanceable, right? Any weapon that isn't enhanceable is like dead to me. So every time they do this, where they add in this cool new feature, you sit there and you go, why is this not everywhere else in the game, right? Like, why are only the prophecy dungeon weapons enhanceable? Why is the Pale Heart a better destination than every other destination? Why are all the recent guns enhanceable, but none of the other ones, right? So now they put themselves in a hole where it's like if you don't make a new area like Nessus, I think when everybody saw Nessus and saw like the environment change, we all thought like Nessus is getting an upgrade, like the Pale Heart did. And as of right now, that's not the case. And that's like one of the most upsetting things because you have to think like someone is spending a lot of time at Bungie making these areas like new and refreshing. And then they don't, like, let's say it doesn't stay in the game. After the third episode, they do the same thing, right? They reset the year and all that stuff goes away. Like all that content that got made is like out the window. So now episodes basically bring better content, but it's still leaving. And they need to like figure out I'm going to use an example of Diablo 4. Every season Diablo 4 does something and then they wait for the fans to say like this is my favorite thing of that season and they go okay, we're keeping that forever. Like they buffed Hell Tides and now like going into next season they're like we're keeping all of it. Bungie doesn't do that at all. Like we keep battlegrounds, which are basically just strikes, but like they need to figure out how to leave stuff behind. Maybe maybe that's with the whole, engine update that we're all like waiting to hear about, but it's every time they do something great, they make everything else look so terrible, and then everyone's basically like fix the rest of it, right? Like that's the problem it creates. Not that that's a bad problem to have, but like they need to they need to figure it out. They need to figure out like by the end of this year, if there's not like all the dungeons aren't, getting reprised weapons or enhanceable weapons, if we're not seeing like master versions of every raid come back eventually, where's our garden reprisal? Where's our vault reprisal? Like now, all the adept weapons from all the raids get multiple perks and you can enhance it. Guess what raid is left out? Vault of Glass. I know people that have time lost fate bringers that are like, if they ever reprise this and I have to go get a new one just so I can enhance it, I would never do it because it's been so long. It's been in the game forever. It's I don't know how to like solve the problem, but they need to like address it now.
Yeah, and see, I think that's the thing that we're running into, and what the hype is, or what we're not hype, but like the conversation with our really, really hardcore players like yourself is what's next for me, because the base level stuff is done for you guys, and everything that they're adding is something you can just crank out in a week or so. So the challenge is kind of fading away for these really hardcore players, and the people that are like deep into this is what is next for me, not for Destiny, but for like the people that want to be that 1%. What do you guys got for me? Because yeah, you guys do need master raids, and this like the grind of getting just red borders or this or that has gotten to is really rudimentary at this point. It's really simple, and I think that's where they're maybe struggling is, do we need to attract more players and new light players, or do we need to keep our hardcore players happy? And I think that's the balance issue that Destiny's running into.
And I think there's like a million things they could do that already exist in the game to be able to make the game great again, right? Like bring back the Red War campaign, bring it back as legendary. Like you don't even have to make the rewards crazy, right? Like if you think about why, like when I was a kid, I never played Halo PvP. I mean, I played Halo PvP, but that wasn't why I played Halo. I played Halo because I went over a buddy's house. We locked in controllers and we ran through the same campaign on higher difficulties with new skulls over and over and over again. And like Halo was successful just because of that. Like amazing campaign, Halo 2, maybe one of the best campaigns ever of like any game, and you just replay it. And then you get better and you change the difficulty and you get better. And like there's so much content in Destiny that even just like bumping up the level of it, if you add a little bit reward, it's like satisfying to do again, right? Like the Witch Queen campaign on Legendary, I've actually gone back within the past like 6 months and I did the whole thing. I was helping a friend through it, but like you go back in, you're like, wow, this really is like spectacular. And I I just don't know if we're like ever gonna see. I don't even know if these are like on their mind. Like I don't know if they're like locked into episodes and they're like screw everything else. But like I don't know. I'm like I'm speechless because I thought at like 10 years we would know more of like what they wanted to root themselves into, and it feels like they're going in like a different direction. I mean, GMs, they added 3 new GMs to get Conqueror. Guess what? They're easier than ever. We're doing like 10-minute speed runs of strikes where like 2 seasons ago I was so cautious to go into a room because there's like 3 overloads and I don't want to die and I'm using a scout rifle. Now it's like I'm just running in there recklessly, casting my super, killing everything, and then walking out.
No, I agree. As a newer player into GM specifically, it was gotta be so. I mean, you gotta play really, really conservative where we're doing these 10 to 12-minute speed runs and we're not speed runners. Like me and you don't, we're not even doing loopholes or taking little shortcuts or, glitches, whatever. We're just cranking through the enemy so fast because it's that easy with how, I don't know if it's a prismatic thing or if it's because they lowered the difficulty where you're only 5 light level below. But yeah, the difficulty is getting easier, which the newer players like myself are probably like, okay, this is doable. But yeah, the hardcore players are guys getting bored fast.
Yeah, and it makes rank 11 feel like less important every season. First, they removed the solo dungeon, right? You could either do the master raid or the solo dungeon, but that also depended on the season, right? Like the first season, you had to do the master raid because there was no dungeon. And then the next season, you had to do the solo dungeon. But then after that, as long as you just had like one of them for the year, you were pretty much good to go. And now there is no solo dungeon for this one because I'm assuming we're not getting one. And Conqueror is easier than ever. Like anybody who doesn't get it is just basically not doing it. Um, I don't. It's hard to like justify making the game really hard, right? Like, at what point are they going to add a rank 12 and you have to three man the witness, right? I don't think they'll ever do that. Me and Baze talked about
No.
that for like an hour, and I'm like, as much as I want higher ceilings, what is the ceiling? What is the ceiling above a master raid? Master raid challenges? Like, okay, there's a title for that. What's above that? Two manning a raid? It's not designed to be that way. They would never do that. So I think this is it for like the format. And I think a lot of these like bigger streamers and stuff are like they're using this as like their lifestyle and like their main thing. And it's like, dude, you know, you beat it. Like you did it. You did it all. You don't have to beat the dead bush. Like, but like you also can't beat the game up. Like name me another game that is like this, that isn't like World of Warcraft or like Path of Exile, right? Like name me another game that feels this good to play, has this much high-end content, has master challenges, right? Like titles to prove yourself of like who you are, day one contest, which obviously doesn't come up that often, but like there are no other games that do it like this.
No, I agree. I think uh, it's unrealistic for us as gamers to think that there should be a game that we play that every single day of our life we have something to do for it. There no game's gonna have that. But I think so far with where this is going, I think they're doing a good job. The exotic catalysts that they're kind of doing for old exotics, I think they reviewed, hey, how come people aren't using the exotic guns, right? Like certain ones, like there's a tons in this game, and there's tons of them that are just being underutilized. And they're like, how can we make them better without reworking them? Let's add catalysts, and it's been awesome. They definitely have changed certain guns just by adding a catalyst where it makes it so much better and so much more usable, and you can put a build around it. And they just have made build crafting a priority in this game again. That's probably what excites you. Like you were just talking about how you found out like a new warlock build you've been doing. You're doing the same content you were doing a week ago with maybe less enthuse or less excitement, but now that you have a new build to play around with it on, and this game just in general being first person, you have superpowers, you have so many different kind of guns, you're a flying borderlands something, halo mix. This has got a bit of everything. It's such a good mix. This is such a good game. I think it is in such a good place. And I think we just kind of look at the future going what's next, and we don't know. So that's where the doubt comes in of, well, what I'm doing right now I can do right now, but I can't do forever. I don't think we need to worry about that as a community. I think that they're figuring it out, and giving us what we need, really.
Yeah, I think episode 1, like so far I do enjoy it. I like it. I know where the story's headed. Um the only thing I wish they would have done this season, honestly, like my only flaw is I want Saint's armor on my Titan, and every time he's like the main character, I feel like it's a loss. Uh,
I personally didn't think the cosmetics for armor for anything this season were great, but I think that should always be a thing that's a focus. Raid armor, incredible. Pale heart stuff, pretty good, but specifically the season and episode armor, I think is hideous. The helmets are super just silly. It doesn't really flow. I kind of like to mix and mesh my sets personally. I'm not a I just want one fluid set. I kind of like to have a boots from this raid, a chest from this one, and whatever and make it flow with the shader color. And there's no chance any of these are making the cut for my builds.
yeah, I mean the Destiny community is like their own worst enemy because they cried so much about not getting new ritual armor, and it's like who's wearing ritual armor? Like you're forcing someone to spend time on something that like Bungie literally looked at statistics and was like, who cares? Like nobody's using this. Like I talk about wanting a lot of old stuff back, right? But like the reason they got rid of escalation protocol was because like 0.3% of players were playing it. So like yeah, you affect 0.3% of players who are like whatever reason still grinding the activity out, but like people aren't using it. So when you make this push as a community to say we want more, 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 but then you're not even like using it, and then the counter argument is always, well, if it was good, I would use it. There are so many armor sets in the game. Like something has to like be game breaking for me to want to put it on. Like the Season of the Deep Hunter cloak. I didn't take that thing off until Prismatic because the jellyfish like thing was so iconic to me that like every cloak looks like a cloak, and now all of a sudden I look like a jellyfish. Right? We didn't get new Iron Banner armor this season. That was like a loss. We've seen the Solstice set. If you're into it, I mean, sure. I guess actually let's touch on that. So the last two, right, Guardian games definitely saw an uplift. Like not even just because of the skimmer. I actually like enjoyed Guardian games. The
Same.
class versus class. Like I know they did it the year before too, but this year kind of felt different. Like it felt way more isolated, right? You had like class v class gambit, which got disabled in like a heartbeat because four titans were probably just like nuking the boss. Um,
Now it would be
it,
hunters.
yeah, I mean,
Still hunting celestial nighthawks. I mean, they would just be done.
if I'm assuming that for Solstice we're going back to the EAZ, but if we're just doing the same thing, like picking up orbs, dunking them at the bonfire, it's like I I understand it's a seasonal activity and it's not supposed to be, you know, something groundbreaking, but when you don't do anything to it, you're basically saying like we don't care. We'll just give you the same flushed out stuff. Like Solstice, they have the armor set, right, where you can like forge it in order to get better stats, but at the same time you can just pull good stat armor from the seasonal thing. So this is like the first testament of like a lot of people are being like, I'm getting spoon fed the same stuff. It doesn't really feel that different. Solstice has an opportunity to be like, we care, right? Like, we spent more time on this. We cut out an entire season so we could do it, right? Same thing with the Halloween, right? Like, if I'm in Lost Sectors killing Pumpkin Hive again, like, I'm gonna be like, all right, bro, like, they're right. Like people are right. We're just getting spoon fed the same crap, but it's a different spoon. You know, like
Yes,
I know we're on I see the things we want to see. You talked about the catalysts.
more
How
for
many
sure. I mean, make every gun relevant that is exotic.
yeah, like how many more days do I have to wait before I have a wish ender a catalyst? I don't even care if it doesn't do anything. It's like wish ender uh has a rainbow behind it when you shoot it. Like I literally could care less. It's just more of like why is it not in the game? I think the thorn was the oldest weapon probably to get a catalyst in like recent time. And now it's
It was
like really good.
perfect. It was
Yeah.
such a good. I mean, you know, it's the double whammy for me in this game is when I need to work on a catalyst or a reshape gun, and I have an activity I have to do. I really feel like I'm getting two birds, one stone. It's so satisfying. Like if I had to go do a bunch of battlegrounds, so because I was trying to get my catalyst kills for, let's just say Wish Ender. It's a double win, dude. I'm probably have a chance of getting red borders from that. I'm getting the catalyst kills I need to, and they're usually not a breeze, right? It takes probably take like 3 or 4 runs, maybe 4 or 5, honestly, for a battleground, based off how many you need. But like more catalysts, just make you're gonna force that person to use that gun for 100 kills, 200 kills, whatever it is, and they start to learn how they can put it into a build, whatever it is. I think that's how we usually discover how good certain exotics are that we haven't used in a while is when we get these catalysts and we just have to use them without it even, and we're like, oh, this isn't even that bad. Like this is kind of fun, but we just need more catalysts. Like you said too, it doesn't have to be game breaking. It could be Wish Ender can just go, okay, great. Like if you get a precision hit, you have faster draw time. Like would be super convenient. Or you can ready your other guns quicker. It could be anything, and we would be like, cool. It's just a little bit better. That works for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to take away from what they have done this season too. Like we did get a couple good we got the we just got the Red Death catalyst. We got the final warning catalyst, which was like I didn't actually see them doing that, which is the catalyst is just nuts. It's just doing the same thing but stronger. Um and then like the new weapon archetypes, like they the rocket sidearm was such a insane like idea. Like I remember people seeing it at first in the trailer being like, "Oh, this looks cool." Not knowing like, "Holy cow, this is better be the greatest thing ever." And now I think Chris Proctor talked about it on the other podcast, right? Like their biggest problem now is like we made this thing really powerful and we have to like continue to make more of them to fill different archetypes. And they right, you see it with the two burst pulse rifle. We had graviton, now we have the solar one, now we have the arc one. Now it's my favorite pulse type, and I'm like, let me get a legendary void one. Oh, we got the strand one. Like,
Yeah, we have one on each slot at this point.
yeah, and like kind of going back to what we were talking about, right? Like if you reprise one dungeon, it's like you have to reprise all of them. When you introduce a new archetype of weapon and there's just one in the game, right? Like I mean, we had buried bloodline and then the arc
Those are
one,
subjects.
yeah, the indebted kindness, right? Like you just have two, but they're actually completely different. Like buried bloodline is all about accuracy, and indebted kindness you can just shoot all over the place. So I want them to bring more guns into the game of different archetypes or different styles. But when you just bring one, like someone at Bungie has to be like scratching their head, like, we came up with three different versions. Why not just do all three? And they're like, nope, just one. And that's where all the people who complain about time gating, it's not even so much of like, oh, I have to wait until next week to get a weapon. It's like, why couldn't you have made a void one? Like, to me at this point, making not like new archetypes, but adding like new guns other than the weapon model, it's just code. Pick your perks, right? The barrels stay the same. Slap on an ornament or a weapon model, which they reuse them anyway. So what does it matter? And that's like one of the biggest signs to me of like time gating. It's like, oh, I really wish I had a void legendary two burst. And they're like, guess what? In episode 3, that's the season. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
It could be. I mean, yeah, the no signal, the 3 round wither horde ish legendary, right? That thing is so sick. And just like we were talking about rocket sidearms, more of those. Like just these new archetypes just keep us more interested. More ways we can do builds. More ways we can just play this freaking game.
yeah, they brought two new two burst hand cannons, and I hate both of them because
Yeah,
I can't use them on the witness. Like Warden's Law is still the best one. The stasis one is the second
it's
coolest
okay.
one. But yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, it's hard.
All right, what's happening in our next episode? Episode 3 of Destiny, or let's say Act 2, right? Or no, next episode, sorry. Episode 2. What's the big thing happen? Give us a take.
All right, so this season they showed potential with wanting to play season activities more because of the bonuses that come with them. And when you look at it, I'm going to use Diablo 4 again, right? When you play a season, you make a whole new character and people have like hated that, but it's like the game is so easy and fun. Getting to 100 is like not the challenge. It's like what about this season makes me want to play? I didn't play season 1 or 3 cuz they sucked. 2 and 4 really good. This episode has been good with the seasonal content, right? You could play Vanguard Strikes at any time. You could play Gambit at any time. Why do I want to play the season content? They've got good rewards, right? They've got a bunch of weapons. If you haven't gotten all the red borders before Act 2 started, now you have even more. They're actually good. Like the two new ones are really, really good. I didn't really like any of the first like 6, but the two new ones are bangers. And
They're 10 out of
then
10.
and then you have all these bonuses. We haven't even unlocked all of them yet. And if we get another 6, like I want to see bonus glimmer while being in the activity, right? I want to see like maybe chances of like high stat armor just as drops instead of me having to spend stuff so I can like get my build out there. Just keep stacking season like mods, I guess, right? To like make me want to play the season. So going into episode 2, we know that there's something with like potions. They like teased, there's like a potion table. We're fighting the Scorn as vampire. I think the vampire season is probably going to be better than this one anyway, just because it's vampires. And I'm assuming the guns are going to look super cool. I'm assuming like we saw the exotic submachine gun sidearm, not sure. The vampiric one, like if that thing is like the season weapon or it's in the game, I'll not only get it, but I'll probably put like 40,000 kills on it cuz it just like they can make every season great by just the weapons and like adding in mods to the seasonal activity. Like what if in battlegrounds, right? The weapons that you use from the season get like an even bigger bonus because I know there's one on the artifact that gives you like a buff towards Vex. But what if it got even better? Now you're like, I'm playing the season. I'm using the season artifact to get or season class item to get more XP, and I'm using the season guns. Like you're built into the season. That's like the whole point of a season, and I've never felt that way with Destiny, right? Like last season was all about solar. It was all about solar. It wasn't about me using solar in the season activity. It wasn't about me using solar like in strikes for the season or anything like that. Like it was just good to play solar in anything you did. But if you make the season activity way more rewarding, like I don't want to be in public events getting glimmer. I would rather like, hey, when you complete a battleground, you get 15,000 or 20 or 25,000 glimmer on top of whatever you kill in there. I would much rather get glimmer through battlegrounds than I would through public events, but public events are so fast and they're so rewarding that like why would I not do them? So,
When it should be even bigger, like if you're doing a raid, you should get more glimmer per
yeah, like
instance.
100K.
If you're doing a GM, I know we said they're easier, but like even a GM should reward you a large amount of these. As we're doing more difficult things or things with bigger amounts of groups of people, I think there should be reward. You should get rewarded more for winning a Crucible match or a Gambit match than if you win or lose, you get the set values. In my mind.
They did fix Iron Banner with that though. Like I was getting iron I had like 200 I think that I popped, right? Like that subtle change for some people you're like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't even play it." But for the people who do, you're like, "Thank God." Like I got a gun like every game. They were also 2000 like gear cuz I was like max. So I used most of those to like upgrade the rest of my vault. Like there are really big wins with the like sandbox and like economy changes that they do, and I think they go really unnoticed. And for a hardcore player, it just makes your life easier. So you're like now instead of like, oh, I'm gonna take the last 2 weeks off of an act, right? You might be caught up by like the second week, and you're like, what am I gonna do, right? Like that's like the downfall of them making it better is if you grind it anyway, you're just going to see like 200% more success in what you were already doing. So
Yes.
there's
Yes.
no way to negate that. But I mean the
Okay. I
potions,
like it.
imagine like episode 2, like you pop a potion before you go do the activity and you get like 50,000 glimmer at the end of it, right? I'd rather do that than a public event. Um Maybe you pop a potion and all the seasonal weapons have a bonus effect where everything blows up. They get like Firefly. If you just the game's already enjoyable, tack on that like little bit more of enjoyness, and you'll see people playing the seasonal activity more. Like, oh, okay, I'm going there and murder everything. Cool. Now it's like, dude, I'm going in there and everything's blowing up, and you're like, yeah, way more fun. Like,
So I like that. I think that's actually really reachable and could happen. My take is gonna be a reach maybe, but I was thinking trying to connect some dots. We got the vampire theme going on, okay? And what do vampires? What is their source of food? Blood.
well,
Okay. What's the color of blood?
no, that's a reach. You're reaching.
It's red, okay? And I'm saying we saw the leaks of a potential red subclass. Could have been pre-beta prismatic, who knows? I'm not saying they're giving us a subclass, but I'm thinking they sprinkle in some of the new guns with that act to be, or episode, whatever, to be that new subclass. Just the weapons and just a couple. And because I don't know if they're going to be able to give us a raid or a dungeon even in those things. I'm assuming it might be a dungeon. And I think it's important for them to just continue to have like some pretty bomb drops besides just like here's a new seasonal activity and you guys can reset your season rank and we have this exotic, right? They cannot do what they did in the past. It's not going to work because that's what these need to be different. So I think with every single one of these episodes, one of the three acts, they're going to drop something major beyond just the what they standardly been doing per schedule. So I think my take, we are going to see a red gun that's going to be out there. I know the devs have denied that that was even ever a thing, but I they're good about this. They keep this thing tight lip. I don't think anybody saw Prismatic coming out too when they were like, "Ah, I don't think there's not going to be any subclasses coming out. Like this is the plan for it." And then they're like, "Bang, this is happening." So again, no subclass, but I think we might be seeing a weapon type and a weapon like uh like not the type of it, but the archetype is going to be unique and different, but also the class of the weapon is going to be something that is not our standard. And you can take that as that new one, or I could even say a prismatic weapon, a weapon type that is prismatic specific.
Yeah, I mean, I well, one with the whole like red subclass thing, a lot of people who said like, "Oh, that was a placeholder for prismatic." Why did that guy have 3 grenades? Because nothing on prismatic has 3 grenades. So like, that was my first like, you know, that's people like stretching to be like, no, that's not real. Whatever. For whatever reason, why people don't want it to be real is insane to me. But unfortunately, in Valve the Disciple, there's a wall and it actually showed 6 colors, right? Like one side was light, the other side was dark. And the third darkness one that wasn't stasis or strand was actually yellow. And as much as I want a bleed subclass to come out, if it was to go off of like previous things, I would assume that resonance would probably be the third one. And seeing like subjugators give their little buddies, little like resonant like turrets was kind of like my first indication that like they're playing around with things. Like you would have a grenade that you throw in the air, and then you have like bees, right? That are just like tracking you like threadlings. Like they've made advancements with, threadlings tracking you, bees would track you, you've got turrets. I'm still praying for the red subclass, and I did speculate a lot that they said they wanted the subclass to be very lore heavy. It needed to make sense. Like, why haven't we not seen it, right? These like echoes that shot out of the Traveler, right? We see the Echo of Command, which is like someone who essentially has the Witness's power of like leading an army. Whatever the one that Vickrell gets in episode 2 has something to do with him getting some sort of like vampiric blood powers, I guess. There could be a play here to introduce the idea of this subclass. I don't think we're going to get it. I 100% don't think we're going to get it, but they might tease the idea that it exists, right? Like maybe it never existed in the universe because it was, suppressed deep down in like the echoes of the Witness's fallen enemies. And now all of a sudden that he's been defeated, it's been like released into the universe. And maybe we don't get resonance. Maybe that was, maybe that was what they planned and then they pivoted. I actually don't think what you're saying is a super far stretch, but it could just be the fact that it's like they just really wanted to do something with vampires, especially because it's the Halloween episode. So they're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have,
agree.
but I
Building
would
off what you were saying about that yellow class, headstone like trait on a gun, instead of leaving, obviously a stasis crystal, what if it left those little like pyramid things that give you an overshield?
like the ones from the raid, like the
Yeah,
the
well, like from
resonance.
the even came from like I think the DLC even before this with the Cabal, they like dropped it, or the Witch Queen one where like they drop it, and if it's on the ground, then it whoever's in it that's an enemy type, they get that little like overshield on it. That'd be kind of a nice thing on top of that, like the headstone, kind of similar where you can drop those and then you want to go run to them, kind of like a dust field at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could spend like the whole next episode talking about what subclass stuff we want, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna see anything
I
as
don't think new subclass, but I think they'll give us a gun to kind of tell us there's something coming.
yeah, I mean, if that submachine gun had any sort of like bleed effect on it, like, I mean, to be fair, Osteostriga, having the poison thing, no one saw that coming. That's like still unique to this. Like Thorn always had it, but like Osteostriga was like the staple for it, and then necrotic grips just enhancing it. All right, so we know Frontiers is coming. We're actually getting a showcase in August, supposedly. They said that in episode 3, there will be some crazy big new feature added to the game. What do we think this feature could possibly be?
I think we're going to be able to pilot the dreadnought and go to different universes. I mean, I just thought the writing was on the wall there for that. Like Frontier, what do you always think of frontiering? You think of Star Trek, Frontiers, exploring universe, exploring different planets. Like I just thought, I'm thinking that's what it is, which is great because I think me and you've talked about it in the past. Dude, we need more planets and we need different planets. Like, love when they give us the ones we played from D1, or even reprise D2 content. Like Nessus is back. It's like, well, it should have never left, but whatever it is, it's it's gonna be let's go to a different universe. Like, get us out of this one. Maybe we start small. They introduce one new planet and a whole different like map screen. You're gonna have to arrow over to this new one, but I think that's exactly what it is, and I also think there's a chance they bring back someone we thought we killed, villain wise. If that's Oryx, if it's his son, I don't know. I think they could be bringing someone back because an Echo potentially seeks them or helped find them or gave him a ghost because the tower, or I'm sorry, the travelers being weird for a while there. I think that's something that comes up to us, or maybe a whole new enemy type would be cool too. I know
That's
there's a lot there, but
Yeah, I actually think that the Echo in Heresy is not related to the hive. I think that it's related to the 9 and the 9 cuz they if you listen carefully in the her description of the narrative, there's some like entity or she used like a word, a specific word. Basically there's like a thing that gets in touch with the echo and then tells us to go back to the dreadnought because there's more secrets there that we never discovered. And you're right. It clearly we're gonna be navigating the dreadnought. They showed the armor, but I actually think it'll be the 9 that are telling us to leave the universe because like they know what's out there and like what we need to do to stop these echoes from like taking over all new people and we're just back into the same situation we've been in. However, the big new feature, right, in episode 3 is not actually story related. It's like they're saying that there's some new like game changing feature, right? Like, we saw shiny weapons. They're saying like that, like there's some systems update that they're doing. What do you think that could possibly be?
Um, I mean, I that's there could be a lot of things. I don't creativity wise, I really don't see things that they need to add that'd be like nice to, but I guess like doubling up on exotics could be something that they do where you can wear an exotic piece of armor that potentially allows you to have two pieces of weapons or I don't know. I mean, honestly, I've never really thought about what they could be adding feature wise. I didn't even know that they mentioned that there's gonna be something groundbreaking. Give me some things that you might have, and I can see if I can delve in on that.
So the first one I'm thinking of is armor, 4.0 at this point, right? Craftable armor sets. And if you actually think about it, it's not even the first time we saw craftable armor. Destiny 1, right? You got raid armor, which was the best armor in the game. And then in order to upgrade it, you had to keep doing the raid over and over again. You had to get materials from the raid, right? It was in Vault, it was in Crota. Then we had Prison of Elders. I don't think it was it.
Prison of
They,
Elders.
they end up getting rid of it in the next one, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, like I want to see what one of the things that the Diablo devs talked about is we want players spending less time in their vault and more time playing the game. And right now, as someone who's played for 10 years, I still have like an armor problem. Like I've got 66s, 67s, 68s, and it's like how do I like keep or get rid of this because I don't know if it's going to fit well with my exotic piece of armor. And I would just like to see them do a craftable armor piece where it's an option, right? Like you could still get a 68 from the seasonal vendor. So if you're not interested in it, then you don't have to do it. It's not like it's like the same thing when people were saying like enhanceable weapons are slightly better. It's like if you feel that way, then you don't need to go for it. But if you want that, 1% difference of your gear, I want to see you like work for it. So I want to see you be able to get it to like 65 by doing like content, spending materials to upgrade it. And then if you want to take it from 65 to 68, you have to get materials in dungeons and raids. And then maybe even take it over the top and be like, do you want to turn this into a piece of artifice gear? You have to do like a master raid and spend an exotic cipher. Like the grind is there if you want it. Some people won't take it. Maybe some people just don't care. Like I'm already 100 statted. That's fine. But you put it in the game, people are going to do it. The second thing, I'll let you talk about both, but
I like the armor. I think you're right. I think that is exactly where they could be going with this because the crafting was a new thing and they basically mastered it on weapons for the most part. But now the armor to me, like you're saying, it sounds like the next piece of the puzzle.
and if we don't get that, I don't see them doing anything with weapons again. Like they're
For a
already
bit, yeah.
yeah, they're already good. Like you leave it alone. Now, tinfoil hat coming on, dude.
I'm
In
gonna
the,
unwrap it like a Hershey kiss. Let's go, baby.
in the tower, you get your own personalized room full of your achievements, right? If you're the host, people are going to see it. In this room, there are things that you as a player can interact with. Maybe a person, maybe a statue, maybe a little like box or something like a console, and you can go into this console and you could say, "Hey, in the duality dungeon, I only want one gun to drop." And it's just like how we had weapon focusing in Into the Light, except now I can do it across the entire game. Like you could do it by dungeon, you could do it by raid, activity, Vanguard strikes, Gambit. Like you'll be able to go in there and be like, I want the Unforgiven from Duality, and maybe as long as you have everything unlocked, or I guess not even really because you have the choice to turn this on, right? First encounter, I want to be able to get Unforgiven. Second encounter, I want to get Unforgiven. Third encounter, I want to get Unforgiven. Like I want to chase the role that I've been looking for, but my odds are in my favor. And
I mean, that'd
that,
be incredible.
I mean, what was so Prophecy when it got enhanced, right? The weapons were still like two to an encounter, but with Warlords, you can get anything. So that was like the first sign to me that like maybe one day they'll do this because what if like all right, Unforgiven comes from the second encounter and I would much rather just do the first over and over again, right, to get it. But then people don't actually do the whole dungeon. But if I had a chance to get it from every single source, I would literally be going through duality over and over and over again until I got
Yeah,
it.
you just do full clears just to keep the momentum.
Now I just do like one clear a week, if that, right? Maybe three if I really cared. But even I know doing three full clears, second encounter is really the only one that I care about. And then the secret chest. So, and also maybe they bring more shiny weapons into the game. Uh,
I think they were received well. I liked them, and I prefer crafting over anything. But I get it. You don't want to be able to make people just craft in everything.
I would like to see the seasonal. We're gonna go back to this. How do you make seasons better? Make the so you never played Iron Banner back in the day, like season one, but
No.
you would get the armor set, and each piece of armor had a like goal on it, right? The helmet was like I don't know, get like 100 headshot kills. The chest piece was like, win 100% of games being like, some number, something like that. And when you hit those goals, you unlocked a special ornament. And that's where now you can go back into Iron Banner. This was last season. You can buy those ornaments from like season one and season two, or maybe it was just two. But back in the day, you had to earn those. The seasonal weapons should all have seasonal weapon ornaments that you have to earn in that season by using the weapons. Now it would suck because I don't want to use the auto rifle, but I would do it to get the ornament because they've gotten away from like weapon ornaments, and those are some of like the coolest things in my opinion in the game.
I mean, I think I love weapon ornaments. I just honestly kind of hate that you need them because they just make the gun so fucking ugly. They're just like, I mean, what the Dawn Chorus. I mean, like that's like one of the worst looking pieces of armor. You get uh
The bird
the
head.
ornament for it, and you're like, okay, it's tolerable, but like, yeah, it's almost necessary. What in Starfire Protocol, I want to say, has like the sickest one where you can like have a whole Phoenix look, but without it, it looks horrible.
Well, no, Starfire never got one because it was like the most used exotic, and they didn't want to give people a bigger reason to use it. But you're talking about Phoenix Protocol, yeah, like
Phoenix Protocol, that's
it's
the
a
one.
hideous without it, yeah.
Horrible. And then Starfire could use one too. I mean, I want to continue to they've nerfed us about it where it doesn't get used at all. if you want to get some people back to it, make it, wearable. Cosmetics matter to me a lot. We talk about that in general, even like with the gender of our characters or whatever. But like the cosmetics of my thing is so important. I don't just put a build together as it like the first thing I do after I put like all the stats on everything. I go visually put it where I need it, get the shaders how I need it. Like that's super important to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to everybody. Some for some people, way too much. So I gave you two ideas. This is
Uh,
your turn. What
I'm
is
going.
the
I mean,
groundbreaking invention of
I
the
think you're
year?
right. I think it's crafted armor. I really could be behind that and could see that being a thing, like within reason. I don't think they're going to do a new subclass. I really don't. Um, and maybe they do. I mean, feeding off the point I talked about earlier about the gun being a new thing, maybe that's what they do in Act Three is they release the full thing, the full subclass of it. I like the idea of the red one and the blood, but even you talking about the pyramid one, that sounds more believable to me. And that would make sense story lore wise, where potentially we are finding the echoes, and then we get some of the power of the witness, and the power of the witness gives us his yellow ability, right, and his yellow subclass, and we learn pieces of it. That would be cool, and that would make sense to me lore wise. But um, what's groundbreaking to them and what's groundbreaking to us, it could be two different things, right? Like to me, prismatic, that's like the craziest thing they ever did. I thought they announced that so casually. Like they were just like, "Oh yeah, like check this out. You can do this ability. You get the special grenade. Like, what do you guys think?" Like didn't they know that just blew our heads out off? Like we were just like, "What?"
Well, the sound effects guy definitely was not casual about it. He's like, you could be like, zoom, doom, 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 doom. I don't.
It-
I think that you have the best third option, like not ranking, but just like in general. Because now that you're talking about it, yeah, what if the seasonal gun is like a blood weapon, and then that's like the stepping stone of like, hey, this exists, and then in Frontiers, we have to go find that power. It is not going to be handed to us in our universe. Like we have to go out and learn about this, and like why didn't the witness know about this? Like some people are saying like, oh, if it hasn't been in the lore, it wouldn't make sense. But that was like the whole point. It's like this was kept a secret. Why? Why did the witness not want anybody to know about this, right? Like it could be there. I
when
could
I
see it.
think the witness, we still okay talking about how Final Shape was good, but story wise was meh. What did we learn about the Traveler that we didn't already know? Like really nothing.
I don't think
And
they're ever I
I don't
think
think the Traveler's as loyal to us as we'd like to think because they give us Ghost and revive us or this and that. I think the Traveler's just kind of just doing its thing. And we just happen to be, benefiting from being in its way. Seeing how all of the enemies of it in general are people that were blessed by it. And then when it left, they're like, why'd you leave? Because I don't think it really has attachment to anybody it positively affects. It's just that great in its existence itself is just beneficial to everybody, but it's not doing it on purpose in my mind.
well, the one thing that was interesting about what the witness said was he was saying release release the gardener, right? And it made me think more that the traveler is actually a cage, right? For some reason. Maybe, when it came into the universe, the winnower was like, you're too powerful. I got to keep your like power contained. But like, I don't know if you know this or not. In Garden of Salvation, right? There's like a to us it's like a mountain. It's like a flat mountain, like it's monstrous. It's actually been explained that that is a tree stump of the original garden. Like that's how big the gardener and the winnower are in relative like to us. Like they'd be like I think the witness was like 280 times the size of like Nezarec or something, and the actual gardener and winnower might be 280 times the size of like the witness. So
Jesus Christ.
yeah, I mean, They could also just go like the Game of Thrones route. Like we go another 10 years and then the game ends and the traveler has still never spoken to us and it just like continues to exist, but we've all like died or something. Like they're just like
I don't want that.
they're
That
like we're
that's
never gonna
not
tell you what
cool to
it is.
me.
That'd be a flex. I would actually like that a lot. I mean, you would just keep people at night for like the next like 30 years. Like, what was it? What is it?
No, no, no. We don't have that. We don't have like someone who's writing it that could do something like that for us. So we need our closure as much as we can when we can. But I think you're. I don't know. They just didn't tell us enough, and I think they owe it to us. And I think the frontiers is going to be that nugget that just puts us in that next thing. And then when we see another subclass, there's not curiosity. We're just doing our thing.
I mean, Joe Blackburn literally talked about in the final shape showcase. He's like, we're gonna, we're gonna answer your questions. And I'm like, I don't know who gave you the questions, but like you didn't answer shit like at all. Why is my ghost like an actual person? Like where does his consciousness come from, right? He's not like an AI. I
What if the
mean,
traveler is evil? What if it's
nah,
just as bad?
that's too obvious of a plot point.
I mean, no, I don't know about obvious. We've been defending and fighting for it for all this time and yet to see anything.
Yeah, I mean
It's
you
never
you
said
follow
anything to us.
yeah, you follow a
It's
silent
revived us.
god.
Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, I guess that's like all gods, right?
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
Eh,
Well, great
yeah,
first episode.
great first episode.
I think we got out a lot. I think there's more to come week over week. I really, two perspectives on this. I think there's just even more we can talk on and more that we can work with. So I'm looking forward to our next episode and what we can bring on. But I want to, there's perks, there's more I want out of this game. There's more I appreciate about this game, and more that a story that we can tell for those that don't have the time. But your car rides or workouts, you get that 90 minutes that you just need to listen to some people, and you're done with the music. This is the show.
Yeah, and I mean we can go way more in depth into a lot of other things. Like you said, perks. We can talk about like stuff like that. And if anybody who's still listening wants us to talk about stuff, I would love for you to leave like comments, questions, literally like join the conversation, give me your opinion. Did everything we just say sounded so stupid that you were like, I gave up
I'd
after
like
like 10
call us
minutes?
out. Definitely could have
Yeah.
been talking out of our ass on a lot of things, but yeah, overall, give us any feedback, everyone. We're learning, but we freaking love this game. We like this when we first met. Like I remember telling him about, yeah, I played this game like called Destiny, and this guy's like, hang on for a sec, goes upstairs in his room and pulls out a raid jacket, and I was like, damn, okay. And yeah, that's the thing, and when I use the term like I'm a newer player, it just means like I'm just like more casual. I don't have the time as much as I used to. I'm married and have a kid, but uh like I have been playing for a while, but just like subtly kind of in and out. I've missed seasons, and Archer's been true to the whole thing. And that's why it's funny to see our perspectives of things. Like when he sees some boredom in some things, or is like I've already done that and it's new to me, we get two different sides of it. So
Yeah, I might be burnt out, but I still play way too much, so I'm not going anywhere,
no,
unfortunately.
never.
All right. This is a good
All right,
first
till next
episode.
time.
Yeah. As always, stay classy, Guardians. I'm Arch Burgundy.